My name is Paul Press and I run a charity called the Offshoot Foundation. The Offshoot Foundation runs workshops with young people, mainly across East Anglia. And over the years, we've had lots of young people who we've worked with, approximately 500 people per year. During the years we've been running, we have over 40 young people who now work in the film and television industry and games industry, as you'll find out. I've invited some of these people to join me on a Zoom conversation. Trying to get everyone together at the same time was absolutely impossible because of people's schedules. So I've gone and interviewed them one by one on Zoom. And what you're going to watch now is those interviews. And hopefully you'll find out some really interesting information about them, about their journeys into the industry, about what they do, and perhaps some hints and tips for you if you're thinking about joining people in the film industry.
My name's Ashley Stafford. I'm from Sudbury, and right now I'm working in retail.
So my name is Rebecca Ward. Everyone calls me Bex. I'm from Sudbury, Suffolk, and my current position in the industry is freelance. So I've done runner work here and there.
I'm Simon. I'm from Ipswich, Suffolk, and I'm a video editor working freelance.
Okay, so I'm Dom. I'm from Suffolk, a little town called Sudbury, and I'm now head videographer at Crystal Palace.
I'm Dan. I'm also from Sudbury in Suffolk, and I work as a freelance TV and events floor manager.
My name's James. I'm from Beccles in Suffolk, and I'm a camera guarantee at Timeline Television.
So I'm Roxy Francis. I'm originally from Sudbury, Suffolk, now live in Maidstone, Kent, and I'm head of creative services at Dovetail Games.
So my name is Benjamin Land. I live in Stonemarket, and I'm a videographer and editor.
So when I was 10 years old, I think my mum saw an ad in the newspaper for a film workshop near me. So I went along to it and basically just met loads of people there that taught me film along the way. And yeah, that's basically how it started.
I studied media in high school and then went on to do it in sixth form, and it really kind of ignited a passion. So straight after sixth form, I just kind of asked around to see if anybody wanted any videos, and got to work really.
I got my start with Paul at Offshoot Films. I started as an intern about 8 years ago. Finished an internship and then kind of worked full-time with him for a bit and then branched out into becoming freelance.
So I think I picked like media studies, art and graphic design for my GCSEs, and those kind of, I knew I wanted to do something creative. They kind of set me off on that path, and then I got joined in with the Young Filmmakers. I think it was a summer school that I did originally, did obviously a lot of projects with those guys, and it was great because I just loved running around and writing scripts and trying to film things and trying to make things happen. That was great. And then I did media studies for A-level as well, and did work experience with yourself throughout that. I think I used to come after school and come and sit and edit with you, that was pretty much the first steps into getting into it.
I showed interest in IT and then media at school, and then took work experience at a local production company, Offshoot Films. There I gained experience working with clients, creating professional video content, working as a cameraman and as an editor, and then went to attend film workshops and ended up running the film workshops on some occasions, and then also leading client-based projects with Offshoot. So sort of gained a lot of on-the-job experience.
So I started my journey kind of with it was known as Offshoot Films back then. There was a group in Sudbury called Sudbury Young Filmmakers, and I got sent from the school to go to their club. It was a Sunday club at that time, and that's how I started. I started off as a participant at the workshop, and then I worked my way up to a group leader almost.
The first thing I actually did was with Paul Press in Offshoot. So back when it was Sudbury and Great Cornard Young Filmmakers, and that was a group that I joined because I was already interested in making films at home anyway with my dad's video camera back then, that was the first club I joined, and then that put me to interest into doing picking media as a GCSE subject.
I started by just making films and stuff on my phone when I was young. And then when I was about 14, I did some work experience with Offshoot Films, and then that kind of snowballed into helping out with some film workshops, and then eventually again running those workshops, doing live briefs and doing professional work with them, alongside then trying to do professional work at a young age, whether it's just for local companies and small local films and stuff like that. And then yeah, went on to university from there.
So recommending education is quite difficult. So at school, I wasn't a good student, if you want to say that. I was in trouble a lot. I left school with no GCSEs that qualify for kind of further education, so college courses, even uni. But with the work experience I got with the foundation, I showed up with a show reel, and they kind of accepted that as that I'm kind of keen to learn, keen to progress in the film industry. And so I haven't really got a recommendation as such. It's just as long as you show hard work in whatever you're doing, there's always a path. It just means not having qualifications closes more doors for you.
I would say if you know what you want to do, definitely try and go to a college, because if you go there, you'll meet loads of other people that are interested in that same subject, which really helps you in the future. And also the teachers are there specifically to teach you that one subject.
When you go to college, you're 3 days a week dedicated to the one subject. And it also gives you time to, especially in video and media, is to create your own material, your own content, and something that I don't think you would necessarily get the opportunity to do at the sixth form, but you definitely do at college.
I went to a sixth form and did media, English language, psychology, and performing arts. And I think there are elements of it that were really helpful for when it came to dissertations and stuff like that, used to academic writing. I completely agree with where the others have come from, that if you know what you want to do at college is really helpful. But also I think one of the things I like to say is that actually it's important not to get bogged down in the pressures of you have to do a certain path for when you're choosing your post-16 options. I know people that I work with now who did A-levels in completely different things and then only later transitioned into starting to work in the film and TV side. And I know people that, like me, knew what they wanted to do when they were 14 and went on. So I think it's something to be said for think about it, but if you're not certain, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, well, I did A levels at sixth form because I didn't want to specialize on one thing too much, and I was kind of a bit worried that if I went to college, I'd sort of have to pick one thing, whereas if I did my A levels, I could pick 3 different subjects. So I picked media, English, language and literature, and then business studies, because I thought that gave me quite a broad, lots of areas to look into, which it did help a lot because, with business, I learned things about marketing, which has then come in handy later on, or, budgeting, things like that. It all ties together. So I did that for my A levels, and then uni, I did film production. So I did very much sort of specialize then in what I did. But, I think there's lots of different routes into it nowadays. And if college suits you better and there's a course that you're interested in, I don't see why there's any reason you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I think going to uni to study film is a good option. Again, not so much in the stuff that you'll learn there, but more in the people that you'll meet and kind of the practical experience you'll get.
I went to university because I had no contacts and no real world job experience to then go into TV. I know a lot of people that have not done that and are still just as successful. So I think if you don't have a foot in the door, then it's the best decision you can possibly make to go to university to study it. Particularly, I would say Ravensbourne, because of the industry connections. And I know one of my mates today was giving a talk to a bunch of Ravensbourne students. So even now, it's 4 years after I graduated, and even longer for the UT, they're still kind of continuing that thing of ex-students working to try and help bring new students into the industry.
It depends on what kind of path you want to go down. Now, a lot of people say yes, a lot of people say it's definitely a thing to do, but me personally, I don't think it is. The reason being is you can get experience elsewhere, you can get them connections elsewhere.
I did go to uni, and it did have it has its pros and cons. Uni, I'd say it wasn't a definite have to. Don't people shouldn't have to feel like they have to go to uni. I think it's more important to try and get your own sort of work experience and get to know people in the industry.
The industry is all based on who you know, what not you know so much. So the further you can go sixth form or uni or whatever, the more people you'll meet and the more connections you'll have when you do get into the industry.
For me, I didn't go. So I think online courses and just getting out there are probably another really good way of education. And that's kind of what I did. And it taught me quite a lot.
I attended Ravensbourne University, and yeah, it was a great place, great location to be in London, near lots of studios. But as I say, it had the equipment, and I was very lucky that there was like-minded people like me who wanted to make TV shows. So I spent most of my time making music shows and chat shows off my own back rather than ones that are necessarily required as part of the course.
Yeah, so I went to Ravensbourne University in London. My course I did was digital television production, but the operations pathway. So my course had two different directions. So you could either go down the production route, which was all things to do with script writing, being perhaps aiming to be a producer, director, whereas the operations pathway that I did was more hands-on with more technology side stuff. So being, say, a camera operator, sound recording, working in the TV studio.
I went to university. I went to Ravensbourne University. It was nice. It was amazing university. It was a good institution. I don't feel like I used the resources available to me as I could have done. So at that point, I was trying to study as well as work in retail, and work 2 other jobs at the same time, one of them including filming football matches.
I went to University of East Anglia in Norwich, and I did music and technology, which was quite fun, but mostly irrelevant to what I'm doing now.
So I went to UCA Farnham. So they have a few different campuses across the country, but the film course at Farnham is quite renowned. So it was really great because they really sort of want you to learn the history and techniques of film before they sort of let you go wild. So some of it might seem a bit irrelevant, but actually it teaches you the kind of processes. So for editing, they taught us to edit 16mm film on an old Steenbeck, actually physically cutting the film, sticking it back together with tape, like marking up with chalk, which obviously you're never going to do that in your day-to-day job once you qualify. But it teaches you to think methodically about why you're making a cut and to organize your footage, because if you lose your footage and it's actual strips of film, it's gone. And if you make a cut, you can tape it back together, but you can only tape it back together so many times. So it kind of teaches you the method and the reasoning for why these digital tools exist. So that was really good because they kind of make you think about why you do things. And it is a very arts-based course. Like film history was a lot of we wouldn't have watched like a Hollywood blockbuster. It was watching more, sort of more obscure cinematic things, but it was really good. It gave you a really good understanding of film and why they're made, and I just loved it. I had the best time. I really think uni's great for not just learning stuff, but also just for growing up a bit as well. I did a lot of growing up at uni, sort of being an adult, having to manage my own stuff, and I also met like some of my best friends and my husband at uni, so I'm always quite biased.
One guy I know, he started off helping out when he was 16 years old, just going along for free to do a football match at Norwich for a company that did stuff there. In fact, that was just him messaging me there, which is what that ding was. And then they ended up taking him on at 18 as essentially a kit warehouse person, and then He developed over 3-4 years there, and last year went freelance as a vision engineer, and now he travels all over the world and all over the country doing lots of sports, lots of football, and he still gets to do lots of Norwich matches, which is good for him.
I know some people that did apprenticeships or just went to college and then managed to get their first job, or have sort of like worked their way up from, you know, just managing to get on a job as a runner and then sort of gain experience and work their way up and stuff. So I don't think it's quite as black and white as it used to be, that you have to have a degree.
I do know someone, his name's Alfie Vaughan. He works in a special effects company in London. He went to sixth form and then he went straight to the industry from sixth form. So he did media in sixth form, went straight to being apprentice at a special effects place.
So I know probably loads of people who don't actually have any degree that still works in the industry. And again, most of it is just getting that lucky break, meeting people and building up practical experience. Like I've been in the industry for about 8 years and no one has really cared about my degree or anything. It's again, who you know and kind of the experience that you've got that kind of builds you up to bigger things.
I think it's good to have some experience, whether that's work experience, voluntary work done with people, as much as hands-on experience you can get, really.
Absolutely. I think experience is definitely the biggest thing that you need, possibly over knowledge. I think if you have good experience and no knowledge, you're still kind of more likely to go further. I think because everyone's got a camera in their pocket, we're quite lucky in that it's very easy to get experience. Experience doesn't necessarily mean being on a film set with a director. Experience can literally just be making your own film, and that can be 30 seconds long for TikTok. So for me, I got experience by just making loads of YouTube videos, but you could email kind of filmmakers who are close to you and ask if you could shadow them, or just kind of make some films on your phone.
I think so. I think experience is probably more valuable than your degree in a way, because I think like now if I'm hiring for a video editor, like everyone's got a degree in something relevant, but what kind of sets people apart is what they've done outside of that. Like have they done some work experience, or have they, you know, gone and made videos themselves? You know, do they have their own YouTube channel where they make stuff? You know, even nowadays, like, you know, TikToks and stuff, you know, are they actively making things? That is something that kind of sets people apart, and you can tell that they really are interested, because I think there are quite a lot of creative degrees out there and a lot of people have them. So I think experience is probably the thing that will set you apart and prepares you a little bit better for what it's really like as well. So show reels are like one of the first things that we'll look at, you know, and that really shows, you know, what someone is capable of doing and what kind of stuff they've worked on, and it does make it quite clear, like, you know, what they are able to do and what they might need a bit more areas to work on. And I give a lot of feedback to people as well if we get CVs and show reels submitted and it's not quite up to scratch. I tend to let them know why as well, so that they can go away and improve on that as much as I can, because it is really tough out there. You know, it's tricky to get someone to look at your stuff and give you feedback.
I wouldn't say you necessarily need experience, but it's a massive help if you go on to do something and you already know what you're doing. But they almost kind of go hand in hand. Like, to get experience, you have to be around the right area to get it, and the way to get that is usually by just volunteering and putting yourself out there to get on as many different shoots and meeting as many different people as you can. I'd say that's probably the best way to gain your experience, to actually get on to different shoots.
London Palladium would have the Wind in the Willows production, and they were turning the production into a film, and I was a runner there for the 4 days. I have to say I basically got that through people that I knew, though. That's the thing. It was because I knew someone who knew someone who knew someone, and they recommended me, and then I managed to get the job. So I was there for 4 days for that, and that was really good. And then since then I've had other stuff. So in Bury, I was a runner for the day for the film for the personal history of David Copperfield in Bury.
I've done a few kind of short documentaries that were quite good fun. and an array of kind of promotional videos for small charities and much bigger companies.
I like to produce. So back in the day, I did a music festival, which was it was very fun. It was my kind of first ever big producing kind of job. It was a local music festival. I went a bit overkill with it. I got 5 cameras on the job. It was big, but at that point, I didn't quite realize what went into it. And from then on, I kind of realized what went into all the certain jobs, what people do. So I tried to dip my toes into camera work, tried it in editing, tried it in sound. I tried everything just so I can understand what people go through.
So when I finished uni, I didn't get my first like industry job for about 6 months. So I was making rotors for a care agency, which, although not that relevant, did show that I could organize and speak to people. I wasn't afraid to pick up the phone and book someone for a job, and I think that helped me when I then got my first job, which was as a production assistant for a corporate video company. And so they were based in Farnham, where I'd gone to uni, and I was still living there. And yeah, I actually ended up working there for 6 years. So I started as a production assistant, and then I worked my way up. I think I was assistant producer, then producer, then producer and chief editor. So I did a real mix of producing and editing. So I planned the shoots, go out and film, and that was, at times all over Europe. One time went to Texas, so flying out and doing lots of jobs and stuff, come back and edit it all. So yeah, it was one company, but it was really varied what I did in the time I was there. Yeah, so now I'm head of creative at Dovetail Games. So we make simulation games predominantly across PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, Epic Store now as well. So what I do is manage a team of video editors and graphic designers so that we can make all the creative assets that we use across the games. So the artwork that you see on the stores, the trailers that you see when a game's released, anything for social media, stuff for in the game, like achievement icons and stuff like that. We make all that stuff. And so it's my job to kind of make sure that my team has everything they need to be able to do that, and to speak to the different department heads and kind of make sure that everything's organized and lined up so that we're able to make everything for it.
Some of the things I've been working on recently, Wimbledon, the tennis tournament. I'm down to work on that this year, and I did the same last year. I do a lot of esports events, so over the next couple of months, I'm in Sweden, in Stockholm, doing a big FIFA Champions League event, and then fly straight back to go into a big FIFA event at the Cop Box in London, in the Olympic Park. Earlier in the year was the Brit Awards, the O2 Arena. I started at BT Sport, so I still do lots of events and broadcast for them. So lots of boxing, lots of football. So this year's been Ipswich, Leeds, Brighton, Premiership football, League One football, international streams, boxing world feeds. So yeah, quite a mishmash of different things, which is good.
So at the moment, I'm cutting a bunch of kind of TV sizzle reels, which are things that go out to broadcasters to get TV shows approved. So we've just finished one with an Olympian who's quite famous and known for being in the media a lot. So that was about a week of editing almost this kind of short form TV program condensed into like 10 minutes. And at the minute, I'm doing a little BBC education job.
So I was in Birmingham earlier this week doing the concert for Ukraine, which was good fun. I'm actually just in my hotel room. I've just come back from Anfield for rigging for the Premier League match tomorrow, which I'll be doing. I'm off to Doha for the World Cup later in the year. I was actually watching the World Cup draw from Anfield, trying to work out which is the stadium that I'll be covering the matches for. So that's good fun. What else? I was in Bahrain doing some horse racing a couple of weeks ago. I'm due to do some sailing at some point. We're doing the Commonwealth Games, so there's lots of variety, lots of sport, lots of very different things, which is great.
I do work for Crystal Palace. as head videographer now, so that involves organizing tons of different shoots, with getting the players where we need them at the right time and getting them ready, telling them what we're going to be doing with them, because usually what happens, we don't have very long with the players. We have to be very streamlined with what we're doing so they don't get annoyed. It's also getting very dark.
Crystal Palace are a good employer. I've done lots of freelance stuff.
Yes, because we've got this connection. Lots of people at Crystal, going back to the Ravensbourne thing, we've joined, and there's actually quite a few people there that went to Ravensbourne, which I've spoken to. And when I said, oh, I've been to Ravensbourne, they're like, oh, I've been there too. And you've already got that sort of common connection with the person. So I think one of the other camera guys went to Ravensbourne. One of the people in the gallery, one of the vision mixers, also went there, which just helps out when you've already gone to the same uni. You have that sort of unspoken thing that you must know what you're doing if you're already here.
His current client is probably my best client, and I got in touch with them because their production manager posted on Facebook saying that they were looking for someone to fix audio from this TV show they're filming in America, and the audio was absolutely dreadful. So they needed someone that could use Final Cut and also do kind of audio work, which, like, I think I might be the only person in England who can do those two things. So I really lucked into it, and then that was about 4 years ago. And so from doing that one little hokey pokey job, I've kind of gone to work for them for consistently for years, which is, again, it's luck. It's kind of how you get started, I find.
I'd like to say I wake up in good time, but I do not. So I wake up, I usually start with checking my emails, making a coffee, doing some editing. If I've got a video shoot, I'll kind of grab my bag and head out the door. I try and pack my bag the night before so there's no kind of added stress in the morning. But yeah, it's usually kind of either sat at the computer editing or in a coffee shop editing so that I can kind of be around people, or it'll be on location.
Yeah, so I spend quite a lot of time on calls like this now. So I speak to a lot of people every day trying to make sure that I can get everything organised for my team. So we have like a team catch up every morning and ask if there's anything that people are missing to be able to get on with their tasks. So I'll go away and speak to people in marketing or community managers, people in development, and kind of make sure that, you know, the game's at a suitable point for capture, because we sort of capture footage from the game itself. You know, make sure that we've got briefs in from everybody, and then I'll do things like, you know, prepping for our next big launches, so doing like mood boards or storyboards for things, so that we've kind of got everything planned and in place as well. And I'm also an ambassador for Women in Games, so I've helped organise events for getting more women and girls interested in the games industry as well. You can find us on Facebook. We've got a Discord, there's a website, but we often run events and things. So recently we had like a big careers day thing where they had lots of different game studios had sort of virtual booths through a platform called Hopin, and you could literally just come along, watch a talk to a couple of different people from different companies, hear what they do, what roles they have available, what they look for. So that's really brilliant, because you can literally just hop in and speak to industry experts in all different areas, and a lot of it crosses over with things like film as well, because, you know, my department, for example, is, you know, mostly creators, video editors and graphic designers and stuff. So yeah, it's really good, and it's all free. You just sign up and jump into a session with people. So that's something that's been really good to do.
Yeah, a typical day, there isn't really one. Sometimes I could be sat inside at a computer editing all day, and then like the next day I could just not sit down for the entire day because I'm running about filming different things, which is probably one of the things I like about working in this industry. It's very different. It's not the same thing over and over again. It keeps it exciting.
On something like the Brit Awards, we did it over 3-4 days, so each artist would have 2 hours. So you would have a 2-hour slot where the floor team would bring an artist to the stage, put them on stage, or at least bring their team onto the stage, where they would then plug in all the instruments, make sure they work. The band would then come in, fine-tuning their adjustments, and then the lead artist would make their way to stage, again, do a little check, and then run a rehearsal for them so they can balance their monitoring, on-set monitoring, so that they can hear what they want to hear. We would then run it 2 or 3 times for cameras, and if there's any pyrotechnics and things like that, we'd choose different runs to run those elements. So you finish off with a full rehearsal of each segment, and then on the last day you would do something called a dress run, which was basically the show in its entirety, every single element, back to back, queue to queue, just so you know everything works, everyone knows exactly what they're doing, before then running the actual show on something like the Brits, which will be live, and there's no stopping once you sort of hit go and you're on and you run it.
Typical days always kind of different being freelance. So at the minute today, I'm just ingesting rushes. So it's literally I kind of press a few buttons, let the computer work, which is probably going to be for the whole day. But yesterday I was in London on set, and the day before that I was at home editing all day. There's not so much of a typical day. It's just like one of the things I like being freelance is loads of variety, go to different places, meet different people, do different stuff.
So being a freelancer has had its pros and cons. So it's good because you get out there, you work with different people, meet different people. It's the more people you know, the better, I think. They can even help you then try and get your next job. But then you've got some downsides of that.
Being a freelancer is very tough. It's hard to get them leads to go on to meet people. But then that's also what you have to do. You do have to put yourself in them shoes and do up your belt, go out there, meet people. But also that's kind of where my downfall was. I wasn't motivated enough to do that.
We found that early on, it was a bit slow to get started. Being a freelancer, he's pretty much freelance since he came out of uni. So it's a little bit slow. I had a part-time job to sort of help pay bills and stuff, and I definitely recommend that. Especially if you're not living at home, you definitely get something to make sure you've got a bit of a steady income while you start to build up your client base. But then once you're a bit more established and you've got regular clients that you work for and stuff, then it can be really great because you've got flexibility. It really helps us out now because Sam's flexible in his days, so that helps with looking after our daughter and stuff. So that's really good. I mean, it is also tough because if you don't work, you don't get paid. So whereas if you're employed, obviously you can take your annual leave, you can go on holiday and you're still paid. If he takes a break, then he doesn't get paid for it. So that's something you have to take into account. And you do end up sort of working odd hours because you just kind of want to make sure that you get everything done for your business. No, I don't think you have to live in London. I mean, I've never lived in London, and that was predominantly because when I sort of came out of uni and was looking for jobs, most things were unpaid at that time. I think there's a little bit less of that now, but it's about 10 years ago. If you trying to get a lower level job in film, it was a lot of unpaid stuff, and I couldn't really afford to either be getting the train in every day or live in London to get those jobs. So I don't think you need to, and I think especially now that post-COVID everyone's working from home a lot more. It's a lot more accepted. You can pretty much work anywhere in the country, really. I mean, Dovetail have a policy of do work where you work best. So you can work from home from anywhere in the country, or you can work in the office in Chatham. It's really like what's best for your work-life balance. So if you're somebody that benefits from going to the office because you find it's better to sort of separate work and home, that's fine. If you want to work from like we do, like the spare room, then you can, and that's how it works. And I think a lot more companies are starting to think that way. So it really depends on probably what your role is, or what you're hoping to do.
You don't have to, although when I have had jobs come up, when I'm looking for them, a lot of them are like London-based people only. So I feel like I've missed out on quite a few freelance jobs not living in London. Or the other two places I've noticed is Brighton or Manchester as well. So not necessarily London, but even if you're in a different city, I think it would mean more freelance jobs available to me. But of course, that's then something you need the money to live in the city, you need jobs, etc.
No, you definitely don't need to live in London to work in the industry. I mean, I don't. I live in a sleepy town in Suffolk. I think it could help, but because of how big the film culture is in London, but equally there are some very, very talented people there. So you might find it a hindrance if you're starting out because of how much competition there is.
No, historically it was more important to be close to London. But I think especially with the pandemic, work from home has become so much of a bigger thing, and also the industry in general is kind of spreading out a lot more. And like the BBC, they've moved a lot of their stuff up north. A lot of productions and TV are getting greenlit in Brighton a lot more. So in general, no, it's handy to be close to it, but it's not necessary.
It's an industry that allows you to be creative every day. So if that's something that you like and you really get a kick out of, then, you know, it's brilliant.
It's just what I really enjoy doing. I think it obviously massively depends on the person, but I just really like how it's always different. You always meet different people. You get to go to loads of different locations and see loads of different things you probably wouldn't ever see if you weren't asked to go to do this. Like, for example, Dan doing the Brit Awards. I don't know if you'd ever get that experience with not being in this industry, would you?
A bad day's work for us with our jobs is something that someone else, probably thousands of other people, would love to do for a day. So even a bad day is a good day.
He's rehearsed that one in the mirror.
If I could go back and do something different and speak to myself, I'd say be more motivated. I'd say push yourself harder to limits that you don't know existed. Yeah, I just give myself a little pep talk about motivation and push myself further.
Don't stress. Just keep calm, keep working, and keep the enthusiasm, and you'll get there. If you work hard enough and you keep the enthusiasm, it doesn't matter how long it takes and what path you do, you'll get there.
Be open to more opportunities, especially when you're younger. There's so many more chances than when you get older. A lot more doors closed the further you get. So take advantage of just like this whole plethora of stuff which you've got open to you at the time, and to kind of see where it will go.
I'm not going to take credit for it, because actually you watched it on an interview where Frank Lampard was talking about taking the Derby job and what his wife Christine said to him, which I thought was brilliant, and what I now abide by is take the leap and a net will appear. Because I think that's so good because especially what I think is when you're offered opportunities that may overlap with other opportunities, and it's just you think whether you should do it or not and work on certain things or do certain things, make tough decisions. I think you just make a decision, go for it, and then a net will appear. It will work out.
I'd say to try and get more work experience, even if I was just voluntary work, even as soon as when I was in college, to get to do more stuff outside of education is definitely vital, I think.
I would say to be more confident and just go out there and talk to more people, because everyone in this industry is so nice. They're all just there to help you. We're all trying to achieve the same thing. Everyone's just trying to help, and sometimes that can be quite scary when you're starting off, but once you start talking and get used to it, it's absolutely fine. And the more you do it, the more your confidence grows, and just doing different things in life in general.
I think I would encourage myself to try and be a little bit more confident. I think I sort of second guess myself a lot at that age, and sort of like a bit of imposter syndrome, I guess, sort of like, oh, I'm not I'm not that skilled, or I'm not that talented to do that kind of thing. And I think just being a bit more confident in what I was good at, and pushing myself a little bit more, I think. And but you do get there in the end. Some jobs are tough, and it pushes you a little bit, but sometimes that's a good push. Sometimes you sort of need to sort of get out of your comfort zone so that you can learn from it. And so yeah, I think that I just try and encourage myself to just be a little bit bolder, a bit braver. But it's been great. So I can't say that the choices I made were bad ones, because it's got me where I am. So
tell myself to just start straight away. I think there were many kind of years where I didn't have a good camera, so I didn't want to make anything. But actually, had I started then, I'd imagine I'd be a lot further on now.
Keep going at it. Believe in yourself. Don't stop.
Fantastic. Thank you, gentlemen. It's always lovely to catch up with you, as you know. But it's always also really fantastic to hear kind of your thoughts of the industry and how you got on, and the exciting work that you're doing now. And as you know, I'm just well jealous of all three of you. So thank you, and thank you to everybody else who's been on this Zoom chat, on this edit. And yeah, cheers guys.